Linda, good to be with you today. Tell us a little bit about yourself, where you live, the church you go to.
My husband's a pastor in Enfield in North London, and together we're in Bushel Park Community Church. I guess the area that we live in, it's characterised by a few housing estates, and well, it's not very middle class, shall we say. There's quite a lot of people who are struggling with issues like addiction and people who are not your classic maybe 2 parents and 2.4 children. It's really messy, and yeah, people just don't come from ideal situations, I guess.
So inherent in that is a lot of singleness. Mm-hmm. Singleness comes in lots of different forms and varieties. You particularly work with single mums, but just tell us a little bit about that variety, would you?
Sure. So I guess in my mind, single mums come in a variety of shapes and sizes. I've got a friend who's become a Christian recently, and she's married to somebody who's not a Christian. So I guess it's like swimming against the tide. In a way, it would be easier if she was not in a relationship. But then I've got another friend whose husband left her, and so, you know, she's struggling with bereavement issues, as well as the kind of struggles that come with that, being lonely and having to raise children on your own. And then I've got another friend who just simply had to leave her relationship because of the degree to which her partner was struggling with addiction.
So many needs,
Mm-hmm.
so many different kind of heartbreaking situations. How do you decide who you're going to help?
Well, I think this is kind of a really important question, because in a way we're faced with an overwhelming sea of need and we can't help everybody. But I found the advice that Paul gives in 1 Timothy chapter 5 about widows quite helpful. I mean, obviously widows are in a different situation, but I would say that the people that we should help are people who, through no fault of their own, have ended up in a single parent family. And I'd also say that 1 Timothy 5 makes it clear that actually it's the responsibility of the family first and foremost to help, but where that's not happening for whatever reason, then the church does need to step in and help that woman to share the burdens that she's struggling with.
It would be helpful to know how you actually, maybe in a case study, how do you go about that?
Sure. So the best way that we've found is to be regularly having that family into our home. In that way, you preempt crises before they happen. So you're the first person to know if that woman is getting herself involved with another man, or if there's some big crisis looming. And that way we're better able to help. I think it's unrealistic to think that all of a sudden you can look after somebody's children when they don't know you at all. But because we're regularly having the children in our home, the moment that woman, for example, has to go into hospital, she can just throw the kids in the front door. The kids are familiar. They know us, and we can help in the way that all of us want to be able to help in an emergency situation. So I do think that that regular contact with the family is really important. And it also means that it's kind of second nature to be able to help them with the things that they struggle with, whether that's disciplining their children or maybe just as simple as planning birthday parties. If it's the mum's birthday, usually it would be the responsibility of the husband or partner to celebrate that and to plan. But actually, a woman on her own can feel very sad about the fact that she doesn't have anybody who can step into that role. And so I guess if we're regularly having them into our home, it becomes natural to plan such events together. If I'm honest, I think of it a little bit like adopting that family into our own family. I want to share my husband in some small way with that woman. I do think the biblical model is that women need the insight of men if they're going to discipline and if they're going to look after their family properly. And so I think that by sitting around the dinner table and being able to talk with another man about these issues, we are in some way restoring that biblical balance of having the male insight into the family. And I also feel so sad for those children who lack that godly male role model that they should have in a father. And so, again, I want to be able to share my children's father with those children, so that as they grow up, they have someone to whom they can turn, and they know what a godly man looks like, and they can aspire to be one too.
Sounds like a huge investment of time and energy and prayer and mental thought. are you talking about one family here, or one person that you're helping?
Well, I recognise that not everybody in a church is in a position to do this, and it wouldn't be wise or appropriate for every person to get involved in this way. But I would say that it's been a great blessing to us, actually, as I've seen really how much God has blessed me with, and just makes me so grateful to think that I have a husband. I have a husband who's a Christian. It gives me such a happy perspective on the situation that I'm in. And so I think that really, at risk, I don't want this to sound wrong, but I really benefit as much as they do from this relationship. And I think it's good for our children too, to see how much God has blessed them with in having a father figure, which we can easily take for granted. But I do think that it's important that everybody considers whether there are people within their church who it might be appropriate for them to invest this time and energy into.
And is this something that more than one family can do with one particular young mum or single mum?
I'd be loath to put kind of hard and fast guidelines around this, but I would say that there is a great benefit on linking one family with one family, in the sense that the children are then in an environment where they are comfortable. And I think if you want to help in an emergency, that is actually to consider what is the most secure place for those children is perhaps one of the more important things you need to consider. I know that we should be sharing burdens around the church, but I think that actually to have one family helping a single mum is, for the most part, the most helpful way of doing it. And then I think the rest of the church can of course be involved in helping with meals, babysitting. There's so many ways in which the wider church can help, but I do think this kind of, well, I suppose it's a relationship, isn't it? And relationships are all about one person with one other person. This is a person we're talking about. We're not talking about a problem. You know, it's not a problem that we need to divvy out so that it's no great burden to all of us. Actually, this is a person, and I really love those single mums that I'm working with, and yeah, grateful to God for the relationship that I have with them.
And I guess with everything you do, there's joys and heartaches, encouragements and huge disappointments. Let's end by thinking of one of each of those. Okay,
so I've already shared a little bit of the blessings of being involved in these relationships, and I can't say enough just how grateful I am to God for all the blessings that He's given me. And I do think when I see how much, I guess you don't know what you've got until it's gone, so I would say that it has caused me to be thankful to God for what He's given to me. And then I guess the sadness really is just wanting to be able to fix the situation, and knowing that this side of heaven, actually, that woman will have to live with a degree of grief, bereavement, and hardship. And we can't make that better, but we just have to trust that God, who is the father to the fatherless and the husband of the church, that He will more than make up to that woman what she's lost in losing her husband.
Linda, thank you.